I wish I had known more about VRBO, or VRBO, before I booked with them. If I had, it could have saved my brother and I over $600 and hours of our time trying to get our money back.
In our opinion, this company's basically created a loophole where people can scam you and get away with it. So stick around to the end, because we've got some lessons for you that'll help you save some time, money, and heartbreak, even if you still decide to book with VRBO after hearing our story. And quick disclaimer, we're merely representing our experiences here and our opinions as a result of it. So, VRBO, or Vacation Rental by Owner, is a popular alternative to Airbnb. Currently owned by the Expedia Group, they boast a healthy 1.2 out of 5 on the Consumer Affairs website, 1.6 on Trustpilot, and 1.04 on the Better Business Bureau website. Somehow, though, they're still one of the biggest players on the short-term rental market. And when you're going on vacation, it can be very tempting to skip the hotel and book one of these private properties. My brother and I found ourselves in this situation in the summer of 2023 when we were planning to head to Linus Tech Expo in Vancouver, Canada. Linus Tech Expo, or LTX, is a large gaming tech convention put on by YouTube juggernaut Linus Tech Tips. Pair that with the fact there were some other events going on in Vancouver at the time, and the cheapest hotel that we could find was $400 a night. And that meant that the only options left to us were basically Airbnb and VRBO.
We ended up finding this listing that looked like a clean, safe, decent place to stay for a price we were comfortable paying. There were no reviews yet, as it was a new listing, but if the photos were to be believed, we didn't have a whole lot to worry about. Turns out we had plenty to worry about. And that brings us to lesson number 1.
Never book a property without reviews.
I wish we had been less trusting, because the night before we left for Vancouver, Dan's girlfriend decided to check out the listing just to see where exactly it was that we were staying. And there were now numerous reviews on the listing that told a very different story.
Do not stay here. It was so dirty that we could not sleep there. There was blood on the walls, black mold in the bathroom, staining on all the couches, chairs, etc. The door looked like it had been pried open with a crowbar. The owner obviously doesn't care even. The worst experience ever. If you think, as I did, that this is a nice, clean, safe condo, think again. As my wife, 2-year-old son, and myself walked in, we were immediately greeted by a broken sliding door, dirty fridge, someone else's dirty dishes. The laundry room that we were supposed to have access to was full of wet, molding laundry. Not sure clean or not, but the smell was overwhelming. Throughout the entire condo, found multiple blood spatters on the floor. Out on the patio, found cigarette butts, a broken chair, and more garbage. Did I mention I had my 2-year-old son with me? Amongst other things found and photographed, I then proceeded to call the host and request a full refund. She agreed and said she would. It's been 6 days since my family and I walked out and still haven't received a dime, and now the host is uncooperative. Not clean, late check-in, no Wi-Fi, no drinking water, no AC, no welcome snack is mentioned in ad. Check-in time was 4 p.m, but she argued that check-in time is at 5 p.m. Anyhow, after entering the unit, there was a lot of bad smell of food. There's garbage everywhere, no Wi-Fi, no AC, dirty clothes and linen left in the closet. They didn't remove it, no welcome snack, no drinking water, no toilet paper, no door to one of the rooms, lots of stains on the floor, used condoms underneath the bed as well. A very bad experience. So greedy people, they want to earn but not to spend. Cheap quality service, they deserve 0-star rating. The photos are not taken from the right unit, it's from somewhere else.
We were now in full panic mode. Dan contacted all of our relatives in BC to see if any of them could put us up for the weekend we were there, and luckily that worked out. So while he was doing that, I got on the phone to VRBO. We weren't about to sleep in a place alongside blood and used condoms. This brings us to our next lesson.
VRBO will never provide a refund.
But let me qualify that. They'll never provide a refund if it's within the agreed upon time frame buried in their terms of service. If I remember correctly, this is something like 15 days before your stay, but we'll put it up on the screen for you. So this time frame somehow exempts VRBO from any responsibility for the delivery of the service that you're paying for, and if you have any problems or if it was misrepresented, you have to take that up with the property owner. So what does that mean? Well, in my opinion, that means VRBO has essentially created an ecosystem where you can scam people and get away with it.
Hello!
where they remove all responsibility from themselves for a failed experience. If someone misrepresents a property, takes your money, and then you're not happy with it, you have to go back to the person who misrepresented the property initially to get a refund. So why would a property owner give a refund if they intentionally misrepresented the property? Well, the answer is they wouldn't, and they didn't.
While I was on the phone with them and in a subsequent chat conversation with customer service, they made it clear that even if we went there and got photos proving the place was disgusting, the choice to refund is always up to the host. Are you f***ing serious?
Again, this is my opinion, but VRBO has created a scammer's paradise.
The customer service rep did, however, provide me with the phone number of the host so I could call them and discuss the situation with them. So I called the host and was pleasantly surprised when they told me to just cancel and send them my info, like booking number, etc., and they would send me a refund. I sent them a text summarizing our conversation and then canceled the booking. And this leads us to our next lesson.
Never cancel outside the cancellation period.
Okay, so here's where we feel the scam started. The host never sent the refund, and then they stopped answering phone calls and emails, and just all communication went dark. Apparently, it turns out, if you do not get your cancellation in writing, VRBO will not help you, and neither will your credit card. Stace filed a chargeback with his bank, Bank of Montreal, who decided to side with the scammer, because it was outside of the cancellation period. They didn't seem to care that the property was fraudulently represented, or that they told Stace over the phone that they would be giving him a refund.
And here's the best part. Our chargeback was initially approved, but then either VRBO or the scammers fought to have it reversed, and they actually did it! They actually did it, and now we are out over $600 for a place we never stayed in.
Yeah, and if you can imagine that, we had the money in our bank accounts for a few months, and then VRBO was like, no, wait a minute, gotcha, bitch. So I emailed their executive leadership team, and a representative called me back, and I told them what happened. And I said that I felt like we'd been wronged in this situation, and then I asked her if she'd fully reviewed the case, if she saw when we'd booked it, the fact that there were no reviews at the time, and then read the reviews that existed on it after the fact, and she said yes. I then asked if she'd stay at a place like that, and then she cut me off and said something along the lines of, oh, well, you can't get a refund if it's not within the time frame, blah, 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 this is our policy. And then later on in the conversation, I asked her a second time, I said, you, personally, would you have stayed at this place? What would you have done? And she gave me the exact same line. Eventually, she offered me a $200 credit, and I just said no, because at this point, that's just an insult.
Number one, how dare you?
The fact that they would side with the scammer multiple times and still allow the listing to be kept up is frankly shocking. Other reviewers reported similar promises of refunds that were never processed, in addition to confirming that the property was not as advertised. And this really drove the next point home.
Do not trust VRBO to remove fraudulent listings.
VRBO had clearly received numerous complaints about this property in the time after we booked and before we canceled. And yet they did not remove the listing or in any way hold the host accountable.
You got my tight pants on.
By the time our trip was to take place, this property should have been removed weeks or even months prior. So if you have already booked with VRBO or are going to book with them anyway, make sure you follow these 2 tips. Check the reviews often, weekly at least. Set a calendar reminder to make sure if a reviewer raises something concerning, that you can still cancel within the allowable cancellation period. 2. Put a reminder in your calendar slightly before the allowable cancellation period ends. Use this time to check the listing and reviews again to make an informed decision as to whether or not you really want to stay there.
We were lucky that our cousin Spencer came through in the end and provided us with a nice, clean, safe place to stay while we attended LTX. But if he hadn't, we'd be stuck paying exorbitant hotel rates or booking something like an hour away or sleeping in our car with sore backs.
No! God, please, no!
Since we were there for a tech gaming convention, and this is Canadian Computer Collector, we helped our cousin fix an issue with his gaming computer that was causing it to crash randomly, and we also gave him some money to show our gratitude. But we know that not everyone is lucky enough to have family that lives in the place they're going to on vacation, so you're going to want to be very careful when booking with VRBO. We are now in a position where, if we want to pursue this any further, our only move left is to sue VRBO.
But before we recap all the lessons that we just went through, head down into the comments if you've actually stayed at a VRBO and let us know how things went, or if you have any tips or tricks or advice for anyone who's considering booking with them.
In short, here are the most important lessons to take away from this video. 1. Don't book a property without reviews. 2. Don't expect a refund outside the refund period, so mark your calendar a few days prior to the refund period's closing and check reviews again at that time. 3. Never cancel outside the cancellation period unless you can get it in writing that you will be refunded. 4. VRBO will always side with hosts, even if they're scamming you. This is enshrined in their cancellation policies, which make it easy to perpetrate fraud using their platform, and they believe they can just wash their hands of it. 5. And finally, just book a hotel. The short-term rental industry needs far more regulation. It's currently the Wild West, full of frauds and scams. You cannot trust these corporations to do the right thing, and we need to press our governments to get more involved. There is a reason why hotels are so strictly regulated, and as a result, consumer protections are in place with respect to basic things like sanitation and safety. At the end of the day, if you're booking with Vacation Rental by Owner, you have to ask yourself one question. Am I willing to risk my entire vacation over this?